When I started out, I remember my colleagues run workshops with clients in order to solve different problems with them and come up with solutions and hypotheses at the back of the workshop. They made the whole thing look really, really easy. Sometimes it honestly just looked like they showed up to work that morning without having any clue what this project is about or what this workshop's going to be about, and they just worked through it to come up with a solution and to come up with the answers with the client during the workshop. It just looked easy. However, later in my career, when I started running workshops, I started to run into different problems. So for example, I would prepare for a workshop by just going through a few different exercises and learning how to run those different exercises on the night before, and then just show up to work the next day just thinking that I'm all ready to go, and I would just invite everyone in the same room and just make them run through these exercises. And by doing this a couple of times, I soon realized that I had absolutely no idea what the hell was going on. And I just realized that I was wasting my own time, everybody else's time, and any solution or answers that came out of the workshop was basically never used. It was a wasted time for everybody. That really just made me realize that in order to run a successful workshop, it really does require a lot more than just showing up. It requires a lot of preparation and planning prior to the workshop. So let's discuss what a workshop is. In its simplest form, it's a collaborative effort in order to solve business and design problems. Collaborative because this is where you would involve clients, team members, and other stakeholders in order to solve your problems. Why would you want to do a workshop? Well, we often don't have all the answers when we start any project. We can certainly do some research, we can look at some data, we can have a couple of stakeholder interviews, look at some competitors, and generally just learn more about the business. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we have everything that we need in order to move forward. There is always some knowledge gaps. This is where our clients' knowledge might actually excel ours, because they understand the business a lot better than us, and they know who their customers are a lot better than us, and those are the items that we really want to get out of the head and document them in order to problem solve. Of course, not every project requires a workshop. Workshops can be very time consuming and expensive. If you just measure the cost of each person's time in that workshop for the few hours that the workshop actually lasts, it really does add up. We really need to be mindful of our own time, other people's time, and the project's deadline. We really need to understand the value and the impact of the project, but at the same time, we need to really define the problem clearly and understand the reason for the workshop, and only consider a workshop based on a value that it could actually provide. So with those in mind, we need to start by identifying a problem and setting goals up for it, and really dig deep into what it is that we're really trying to figure out. We then simply need to look into what we already know, what we don't know, what we're trying to figure out, what can we really collect with some basic research and stakeholder interviews, and identify what parts of a project we can really benefit from by involving a group thinking session, aka a workshop. For example, if we're solving a small task like how this card should look, we can most likely either make that decision on our own or by involving one or two different team members in the decision-making process. If we're defining something bigger that has a bigger impact to the business and different parts of a business, so for example, maybe a customer journey map, which might require us to understand a customer's interaction at every single touch point within the business and the brand, it simply means that there is a lot that we need to touch and we don't have all the answers, and it's a little bit counterproductive to set up specific different separate meetings with all the different people that are key decision makers in this process and collect everyone's knowledge individually, especially with something like a customer journey map, for example, that has a lot of overlaps between different touch points in different areas. We can solve problems like this a lot easier if we simply just approach it as a group, with all the different subject matter experts in the same room, as each of them would have different ideas and every single person can bring value to your findings. Now let's answer the main question. How would you go ahead and prepare for a workshop? It can be a daunting task. However, I've come up with a simple framework that has helped me throughout my career, and I just want to share it with you. You simply start with the end and work your way backwards to the start. First, you want to learn about the business and the industry as much as you can, all on your own. And then you want to identify your end goal and how you might want to get there. And nothing can explain complex things like this better than a simple example. So let's say that we have a website and we've identified that the current problem with our website is that it's simply too confusing for our current customers to use it efficiently. Let's also say that we're aware of the fact that we have a really good traffic onto the website, but at the same time, the drop-off rate is also very high. Customers have a hard time understanding what it is that we do, and even though we have a solution to the problem, they have a hard time finding it. We can simply identify a few things from this statement I just made. We get good traffic, however, we either don't send the message across really well to our customers, or the experience they have using the website is simply really bad. We have the right solution for the customer, but it's hard for them to find the information in order to solve the problems on the website. In order to tackle this problem, we need to understand the business and the industry a little bit better. We need to understand the customers and the journey they go through on our website a little bit better. And then based on that journey, we need to identify the pain points that they struggle with the most. For some of this, we can simply just dig into the data and do some basic research, but it also seems like that we could use a nice user journey map in order to identify the problems and the potential opportunities. Let's say that we've now internally agreed upon the value of a user journey map and we want to go ahead and create one. Creating a good customer journey map can be a complex task. So in order to do it well, you might want to identify some key stakeholders that you want to involve in your workshop. So for a workshop like this, I would probably involve someone who knows the data really well. So maybe a data analyst, someone who understands and knows the industry and the business really well. So maybe like a CEO or like a product manager, someone who understands the product really well. So maybe a product manager or the key designer, someone who understands the customer segments really well. So maybe a CEO, a product manager, or the key designer, and someone who understands the customer problems really well. So maybe like a customer service team member. That's 4, maybe 5 people. Keeping the number of participants as low as possible is really helpful in order to run the workshop as smooth as possible without running into issues like having too many cooks in the kitchen and not being able to go over any of their exercises efficiently. You also want to make sure that everyone's very comfortable and no one's really afraid to speak up just because of having C-level people in the room. In order to do that successfully, you might want to think about different exercises that allows people to think individually, and that makes sure that everybody's voice in the room gets heard. Some of the best ideas within these workshops comes from the most quiet people in the room. Next, you want to identify what you actually want to include in this journey map as a sole designer. Once you actually get into the room with the rest of the guys, they will definitely let you know what they also want to include in this, but definitely go in prepared knowing what you want to do prior to the workshop in order to save time. Prior to the workshop, you also want to identify the exercises that you want to go through in order to guide the direction of the workshop. Next, you want to do a good job at time management. For example, if it's going to be a 2-hour workshop, literally chunk it down into minutes and create an agenda explaining what you're going to go through at each time slot within the 2 hours. Next, you need to make sure that you stick to that time slot. If you're allowing 15 minutes for an exercise, stick to the 15 minutes. If you don't control this, you will definitely blow over. The final note that I'll leave you with in this section is to take care of the people that you have in the workshop. Our job is to do our best to keep everybody entertained, create a safe environment for conversations, make everybody feel welcomed, and let them know that everybody's thought is valuable and important to be heard, and actually encourage everybody to participate in your workshop. One thing that works really well for me when it comes to workshops is just to remind everyone that we all have the same end goal, the success of this product. No single person's idea is better or more important than someone else's. This creates a really nice and healthy atmosphere for everybody involved in the workshop. Now, the final section of this that I want to talk to you guys about is the right tools. We now know how to prepare for a workshop, but we also need to be prepared with our tools when we go to the workshop. If you're doing this in person, just think about all the exercises that you're going to go through. Make sure that you have the right tools and materials ready for you. It being post-it notes, markers, blue tags, sticky dots, or any other stationery that you might need for that session. If you're doing a workshop online, however, there are many tools out there that can actually help you make your life a lot easier. The 2 things that I use for a remote workshop is a calling tool, so it's something like Zoom or Google Meet or whatever that you use. And the second thing is a whiteboarding tool. So I use Miro, and I will leave a link to it down below, so if you want to use the same tool you can, or you could just do your own research and see what works best for you. This is where I'm going to leave this, as this was meant to be a simple intro to how to prepare for a workshop. Hope this video was helpful to some of you guys. If you have any questions regarding this or anything else, just leave your comments down below. Feel free to get in touch with me on Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn. All the links are also down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please share, like, and subscribe, as all of those actions will help me out greatly. That's it for this one, and I'll see you guys in the next video.